The Heritage Le Telfair in Belhomme in the south of Mauritius is a case of the score not matching its potential. This is a resort that could easily score above 95. Dare I say it has the facilities to flirt with a 100. But there are a few key details that they need to focus on first. By the way, the exact price that I paid for this stay, or any stay or flight on the channel, is always in the video description. Let me welcome any of you that might be new to the channel. My name is Kevin. I'm here to give you a self-funded and honest look at some of the best and some of the not so best airlines and hotels in the world, which I've been bringing to you full-time for the past 4 years. Check out my hundreds of videos, scan the QR code, or click the link in the description to learn more about how I do things. Let's get into the tour. Welcome back to Mauritius. If you're driving to the south from the north of the island, be prepared for quite the ride, full of passes and switchbacks all the way down. Well, part of the way down. Once down by the water, the gorgeous drive continues along the coast until you reach Heritage Le Telfair. Except for a select few, when it comes to the history of a resort or deep dive facts, I always like to go in blind. I want to experience the property as if I was a guest arriving for my annual vacation. After check-in, I asked my concierge when the resort was opened. 2017, she said. I was confused, very confused. I said, "So it's all new?" "Yes," she said. So, two things. First, the whole time that I was here, after that conversation, I had this strange asterisk in the back of my mind tacked onto every thought about how beautiful the resort was. But it's all new, and not actually a historic resort like I thought it was, said the asterisk. The second thing is, she was wrong. The Heritage Le Telfair was last renovated in 2017, but the broader Heritage property, which includes 2 resorts, 2 golf courses, 13 restaurants, a beach club, and more, began taking shape in 2004. There are 2 distinct resorts, here and just next door the Heritage Awali. I was told the only difference between the 2 was one was African themed and one was colonial themed. I'll let you guess which one this is. Let me tell you what the theme actually is though as we pass through the small but gorgeous reception area where you'll be greeted by the guest relations manager upon arrival. Born in 1778 in Belfast, Charles Telfair, for whom the resort is named, was a famed doctor and botanist who, for the time, was very socially progressive. The British took Mauritius in 1810 from the French during the Napoleonic War. That is what eventually brought Telfair and his wife, Annabella, to the island, where he built a hospital and school for slaves in the nearby town of Belhomme. His wife taught at the school, and it's thought that Telfair's hobby, his fondness for botany, is what helped put Mauritius on the map as a destination to be sought out. Over the years, Mauritius was occupied by the Dutch, and then the French, and then the British, declaring independence in 1968. While this review is just of the Heritage Le Telfair, the greater grounds of the property have on it his original chateau, built in 1810, which has now been converted into a fine dining restaurant on one of the golf courses. So, as the resort puts it, quote, "Heritage is a resplendent echo of Mauritius's colonial past." And with that, I think you're in a good place to appreciate the resort for what it is. The centerpiece here is the stunning family pool. A member of small luxury hotels, the resort has 158 rooms and suites and shares nearly a kilometer of beachfront with its neighboring Awali and Beach Club. I don't play golf, but let me tell you, the guests here definitely do, and I think that's the easiest way to sum up the vibe here. It's what I imagine a British country club would feel like if that country club happened to be on a beautiful beach. During the day, it's laid back but with a certain poise about it. At night, it's buttoned up and ready for, please imagine me saying this in a British accent, ready for the evening's festivities. One of the reasons golf is so popular here is because for the guests that have the Gourmet Bliss package, daily greens fees are free on one of the courses, and the other course is free once per week. At the end of the pool and past the centerpiece bar, we get our first taste of the seafront. Amazing to me to think that from this vantage point, looking due south, the first piece of land that you would hit, if Antarctica wasn't there, would be the central coast of California. I'll let you explore around a bit as we start to head over to the Sea Beach Club. The Beach Club is part of the greater Heritage property and is accessible to all guests. I was a bit surprised that it was a very different architectural style from the resort, but it was still a very nice beach club with its own restaurant open throughout the day and a variety of seating areas. Now we're going to go head over to the other side of the resort to check out the adults only pool. But before we do, let's take a look at where we are so you can understand the layout a little bit better. Located in the southwest of the Indian Ocean, Mauritius is a nation of 4 primary islands with smaller ones surrounding each of them. The primary island is Mauritius itself, and we're on the southern coast. While we're quite far from most population centers on the island, we are actually fairly close to the airport relative to the rest of the island. The Heritage Le Telfair is this portion here. You can see the 3 pools. The central one is where we started. On the left is the beach club, and on the right is the adults only pool. Just past that is the Awali Resort. The adults-only area is serene, and some of the loungers around the pool are reserved, each set belonging to a specific room in the area. Resort stays like this one truly would not be possible without your support on Patreon. Resort videos and flight videos simply make money in very different ways on YouTube. So if you appreciate these kinds of unsponsored videos, please consider checking out my page. You can also support the channel to continue to grow by liking this video and subscribing, or joining my YouTube channel memberships. Whatever you do, thanks very much for doing it. In some very early morning light, I'll just give you a quick taste of the vibe next door at Awali. And I mean literally next door. The resorts are separated by a matter of meters. Now, in my intro, I spoke about some missteps. The first one was my lunch at the pool bar. So I was starving, and this was the only place open at 3:15, which is the only reason that I actually ate here. But the place was swarming, and I mean swarming, with flies. I'd invite you to look at these clips just very closely if you care to watch. I didn't catch it on camera, but a couple of times the bartender would take his towel and shear the flies on top of all the glasses, and literally a plume of flies would emerge. Let's not kid ourselves. This is a cleanliness issue at the bar, where staff were constantly screaming at each other. Nowhere else in the resort was there ever more than like a single fly in sight. As for my chicken Caesar salad, the salad and the tandoor chicken was actually pretty good. I've never had tandoor chicken on a salad before, and I'd love to try it again. But that bacon was like gnawing on vinyl. Overall, let's say a 6.5 out of 10. The next day, I had room service for lunch, and that chicken sandwich was fantastic at an 8.5 out of 10. Okay, let's go check out my room. I booked this stay via the Capital One Premier Collection. Very similar in function to the Amex Fine Hotels and Resorts rate. Free breakfast, in this case half board, a €100 credit, early check-in, late checkout, and an upgrade if available. I got a great upgrade to a junior suite and absolutely love the room. Let's go take a look inside. If you told me I was going to visit a colonial-style, old-world charm resort on a tropical island, I have a feeling that my imagination would be conjuring up something very close to this, and I was able to enjoy it for quite a while. My flight leaving Mauritius was scheduled for 6:30 p.m., and I had a 3:30 p.m. checkout. When my flight was delayed 2 hours that morning, they were kind enough to allow me to keep the room. My only small complaints in the room: outlets were few and far in between, or difficult to access. A desk chair rather than just an ottoman would have been a much better choice. And finally, the world no longer needs rugs like these. They look horrible after just a couple of days of use. The rest of it, I loved. I'll let you have a look around as I put up the extra bits. I'm generally not one to enjoy ground floor rooms, but this was just a really special setting. I had lunch out here and spent quite a bit of time just relaxing on the terrace. This side of the resort, near the beach club, means you'll be walking on some pathways that most of the resort doesn't. This is what said pathway looks like during the day. And here's what it looks like at night. Zero lighting. To make matters worse, the path was slippery as anything with mud. Similar to the Lux property that I was at, there are many types of packages here, though they don't make it as confusing as Lux, it would seem. Some restaurants here are included for half board or all-inclusive. Some are an upcharge even if you have all-inclusive. The options for dinner that were physically part of this resort were Ginja, serving Asian fare, Annabella's was their all-day restaurant. We'll take a look at that for breakfast. Before we head to Le Palmier for my dinner, let's check out the primary whiskey and piano bar, Cavendish. Le Palmier is a beachfront restaurant, and despite the fact that it wasn't raining at night, and had only rained for a brief moment during the day, it was all covered up. My concierge made a reservation for me, and despite the fact that I arrived to an empty restaurant, the three staff seemed to have a bit of a conundrum figuring out where to put me. In case you haven't caught on yet, this restaurant and this dinner is what left the worst taste in my mouth from the resort, quite literally. So there were no cushions available since they said they all got wet from the rain. It made for an uncomfortable seat and seemed like a sorry excuse, and apparently others thought the same as well. I watched 3 couples or families with reservations walk in and promptly walk out for the same reason. I chose this restaurant for the menu that my concierge sent me via WhatsApp because it looked fantastic. I got there and it was a completely different menu, which was not nearly as exciting. For the appetizer, I had the grilled vegetable fine tart with tomato compote, fresh cheese, and herb salad. The flavor here was delicious, but the pastry was absolutely raw. 5 out of 10. While waiting for my main dish, gazing out into my very shortly poured glass of wine, the power went out. I ordered this seared, allow me to repeat that word, seared tuna steak with smoked onion, black bean condiment, and burnt bell pepper. When it was brought out, I was punched in the face with an aroma that did not belong on that plate. The smell was somewhere between cheese and garbage. Especially since it was dark, I treaded very carefully. Then the power came back, after a few bites, and I knew exactly what I was eating. First of all, I was eating an overcooked, likely sous vide piece of tuna with the texture from a can and not a whiff of a sear. The aroma, though, was from the black bean condiment, quote-unquote. They use fermented black beans instead of regular black beans. I used to use this regularly in my restaurant, so let me tell you if you're not familiar. Fermented black beans are a seasoning. They're not an ingredient. They're often used to marinate raw meats. Never in my life have I heard of them being used in a salsa, and that's because they're not supposed to be. Imagine taking a spoon of miso dipped in soy sauce with a fermented blue cheese drizzle, condense that flavor, and then put that in every bite. Obviously, this was a 0 out of 10. I had a pumpkin creme brulee to finish, and the only note was that it was such a shallow serving that the blowtorch liquefied the entire thing, but it was tasty. 6 out of 10. The next morning, I was walking down the beach trying to find the sun, but we were just at a bad angle here. Still a beautiful, peaceful atmosphere though. For the black beans, I wrote about it on the comment card that they gave me at the restaurant and pulled the manager aside just to tell him about what happened. Fermented black beans are not a popular ingredient all over the world, and so, not unexpectedly, I'm not too sure he understood what I was saying. Thankfully, that was definitely the low point of the stay. Let's head to Annabella's for breakfast. The vibe here was also just off. It was like pulling teeth to get a server's attention, even when it was near empty. That said, the restaurant is beautiful. The buffet selection is okay. It's nothing really all that special, but it's well-rounded. Overall, this left me feeling pretty middle of the pack, so we're going to go for a 5. Near the reception area are the activity centers for the kids, the tennis courts, gym, and the like. As we have a quick look around, let me give you my final thoughts. I hate to be so blunt, but this resort needs a new F&B manager. Let's keep in mind that every single one of my complaints here was about a restaurant or a bar or the staff in said venue. Maybe it's that they don't have an F&B manager at all, or they're just stretched too thin, I don't know. But for the level that this resort is trying to be, and the extensive talk on their website about the gastronomic experience that you'll have while you're here, I feel like they fell on their face. Besides that room service sandwich. Besides that, the place is gorgeous, no doubt. If I knew somehow that the restaurant issues were resolved, I'd go back myself without hesitation. I would say though, online I see a lot of people speaking about the Awali and Le Telfair as if they're pretty much the same. And I suppose in some ways they are, but Awali really just didn't feel as special and elevated as I had my quick walk around. It's beautiful, but for me there's no competition. Le Telfair would be my choice. So I really do hope that you enjoyed this resort tour today. If you did, please be sure to click that like button and subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss out on my weekly flight and resort videos. I'll see you next time in first class on Qatar Airways. And no, not that regional first class, the real deal. As always, thanks for watching until the end.